Welcome back to Living Black Podcast with your hosts,
Nayla and
Ari. And today we're glad to have y'all back for another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and how it's impacting the Black community. But before we dive in, I want to reveal today's question of the day. Today's question of the day is: did you get the vaccine or are you planning to get the vaccine? And whatever your answer may be, why is that? So, we posted this question on our Instagram story prior to the filming of this episode for listeners to give their own opinions. So let's take a look into what our listeners had to say. According to our listeners, when we posted the poll on Instagram, 83% of them said yes, they're planning to get the vaccine or they already have the vaccine. 17% of our listeners said no, they're not planning to get the vaccine or wish not to. And when asked why, one of our listeners said, at first, my parents didn't want them or didn't allow them to get the vaccine, but they got a job, so they had to get it. Another listener said, I don't trust the government's intentions. And those two responses are both pretty much very valid because everyone's opinion on the vaccine and their before thoughts about the vaccine and why they're getting the vaccine are they're very valid, and they also make sense because you know it only took COVID a whole year to like transpire and evolve, and with the vaccine being developed in such a small amount of time in comparison to all the other diseases and deadly sicknesses out there that really need a cure or vaccine itself, it's just really like very confusing as to why COVID was the top like winner at this point for a vaccine. Nayla, what's your opinion on this question of the day?
my opinion is, well, I personally did take the vaccine and I did it because I pretty much just I believe in science and like I have faith in science and like how well developed they are in their research and everything. I also have many family members that are within science and work on medicine. I actually have someone that I know that helped to create the Pfizer vaccine. So yeah, I just personally believe in a lot of science and that type of stuff because I do have people close to me that work on those type of things. And so I just think if they made it or helped to make it or know that type of stuff and they're confident in the vaccine, then I just feel a sense of there's nothing to worry about.
That is so agreed. My response to the question of the day is that I'm actually getting the vaccine. I already have my first dose. I'm going in next Tuesday to get my second dose. Hashtag Pfizer. And my opinion on the vaccine is that I was a little skeptical of it at first as well. But when it comes to the vaccine, it's like a moment for everyone to, like rejoice and think back on how this year has really treated us and how COVID has impacted everyone. And when you think about it, COVID has been like a real like heartbreaker because um, you know, with COVID, you weren't able to see family and people that, you may have seen every single day. And it's just like things that were once notified or noted as normal were no longer normal.
Mm-hmm.
And with
Yes.
and with the vaccine itself, it's like it's a moment for us to get back to normal, but one step at a time. Because with the vaccine itself, they're saying the CDC is saying that you don't have to mask up with the vaccine. But the problem is that people should still be wearing their mask because there's people out there that aren't vaccinated. And when you interact with someone that's not vaccinated, that's it's like it's kind of like two female fishes trying to go at each other. It's kind of like a fight almost with the immune system because like you're interacting with someone who's unvaccinated and not everyone is vaccinated in the United States. So it wouldn't truly make sense.
Mm-hmm. So before we begin, I just want to add a little disclaimer that we are not medical professionals. We are just giving our opinions and thoughts as well as research that we've done. So make sure to do your own research and look more into things from your perspective.
Agreed. And if you have your own opinions, you are welcome to express them here. But we're just expressing our opinions and what our listeners thought about it. So you can begin to reveal our questions for today.
So our questions for today are: what are the effects of COVID-19 on the average human body? Does COVID-19 perform different side effects on Black people? Have any of us experienced having COVID-19 or known someone who has? Should you get the vaccine or is the government tricking us? What are the side effects? Mask up or not? How do you address COVID-19 vaccine myths and scares on social media? Are people actually dying / getting tracked through a microchip in the vaccine? How has COVID-19 really impacted the Black community?
So our first question up is, what are the effects of COVID-19 on the average human body? I'll go first. So when we're talking about COVID-19 and the human body, COVID-19, like there's many different versions of it, and there's also multiple variants of it. I learned this actually like 2 weeks ago. I didn't know that there was multiple versions of COVID-19, not talking about like symptoms, but like actual different versions. And aside from only the Delta variant. And when it comes to COVID-19, I experienced COVID-19 myself earlier this year around April or May. And for me, it was like a smaller version of the flu, but it just lingered on for maybe about 10 days. And after those 10 days, it was like, okay, I'm starting to feel better. And things were starting to, get better. And I was also keeping up on my vitamin C and everything else. But when it comes to COVID-19, I do know for sure that some of the symptoms would be like headaches. What else? It would be like flu-like symptoms, cold-like symptoms. But the issue is that a lot of us are getting it confused with allergies, and that's a big thing.
So for me, from my research and my knowledge, COVID impacts every person and body differently, but the main effects have been found to be like that the virus affects the lungs and how it affects the lungs and how like one's body runs while the virus is like taking over.
Yes, that's true as well, because COVID-19, like someone could die from COVID-19 as well. And people can get asthma from it. They could develop like long-term sicknesses just from getting COVID because it really messed up their entire body, or maybe the insides or their organ.
So our next question is, does COVID-19 perform different side effects on Black people? You can go first.
So because of our like culture background and us being African American, I believe that as Black people, some of us are at a higher risk because, first off, when we look even before COVID-19, most of us are at a higher risk for having high blood pressure, asthma, diabetes, pre-diabetes, all of those like sicknesses and diseases that are really like, almost there for you to like die eventually, or like their death-like symptoms along the way, and long-term symptoms, diseases as well. And the side effects, like they really differ, but because of like our communities and where we come from, when you look back at just like how we're at a higher risk for those diseases, when you think about it, because most of our community does have some of those long-term sicknesses and diseases, COVID-19 is going to have a higher impact on us, because those who have those type of like illnesses and things, they have those different side effects and at a higher risk of being hospitalized and possibly on a ventilator.
Yes. And to kind of add on to that, but moving a little bit away from the medical perspective, COVID-19 can have very bad effects on Black people's communities because of the fact that many of them did many of them did lose their jobs and stuff. So that's like a big effect that it had on the community. and that has to do with like finances. Like many Black people have struggled through these times, and those are other effects of COVID-19.
Yes, that's so true because many Black-owned small businesses, like I know for sure some of them shut down, and a lot of businesses, when I went outside for the first time earlier this year, looking around to see like what businesses like shut down and things like that, a lot of businesses shut down because of COVID. You know, they weren't getting any type of funding and there weren't any customers because of COVID, and sometimes they didn't have workers, everything. It just went blank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I know for sure that COVID really impacted. But a lot of young people from our community are starting up small businesses just from their homes. So that's something great.
Yep, for sure.
hmm the next question is, have any of us experienced having COVID-19 or known someone who has? You can go first, Neela.
I personally haven't experienced it. My dad did get like a positive test and he did quarantine for 2 weeks in his room, but he never had any symptoms, which led us to believe that it was like a false positive. But other than that, not really.
Yeah, the asymptomatic part is kind of scary, but at least you don't have to go through any struggles. You just have to like quarantine for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But me and my mom, we actually got COVID-19 around April or May-ish. And it wasn't really like a fun time because it was like the COVID-19 vaccine was starting to be developed. And also, COVID-19 itself is not something you'd like to have, anyways. Um, from our perspective, I had like the better version of COVID-19 because I had like a small cough and just like mucus. I thought it was actually a sinus infection at first because I'm more prone to getting sinus infections, but it wasn't that. And we ended up having both positive tests. So we had to quarantine at home for 2 weeks. So that was that. And it was also like an odd experience because we were going through a lot with like family, and it was just really stressful, but it was also a hard experience as well. And my grandmother, she actually had COVID-19 in the hospital, like I believe once or twice. So that was another person that I know had COVID-19.
Yeah, so our next question is, should you get the vaccine or is the government tricking us? What are the effects and mask up or not? So I personally encourage everyone to get vaccinated, but it's honestly not my place to force anyone unwilling to do something. I personally got the vaccine because I believe in science, as I said before. And one of my views on the vaccine is that if we see all these big people and wealthy people that are higher up, I say that in quotes, higher up, getting the vaccine, we shouldn't have too much to worry about because they're the people mainly in control of stuff. So they believe enough, or like, if they're willing to take that, then we shouldn't be too worried. And as I said before, I also just really believe in science.
Yes, I agree. I believe in science as well. And the reason why I decided to get the vaccine is because, first off, I'm traveling this summer, so I'll be interacting with people. And I don't really like the idea of flying during COVID, but I don't like the idea of sitting in cars for too long either. So it's either pick one and stick with it. So I decided to just stick with getting the vaccine. And also because I'll be going back to school in August, and I don't trust a lot of the kids in my school. And a
Mhm.
lot of them are very like risky. So I don't want to like have a chance of getting COVID again. And with the vaccine itself, the side effects that I had so far after my first dose is my arm was only sore for like a couple of days, like 2 days. Um, it wasn't like really anything too harsh. It was just a sore arm pretty much. Nothing too deep.
Yeah, me too. My arm was like sore for 1 day for both of them.
Yeah. And when I got my vaccine, I thought they like had like a big old like needle that they stick in you, but it was a small needle. I was like, oh my God.
Mhm.
Yeah. And for the mask up or nah, I'm saying mask up because, like I mentioned, for the question of the day, you're interacting with people that you don't know if they had their vaccine or not unless you ask them. And I don't want to like interact with people that don't have their vaccine. They may have COVID, even if they are vaccinated still. They may have COVID. It's a possibility.
Yep. And I
I'm
agree
not
with
going.
her.
Hmm.
I agree with her to mask up because they're still recommending you to mask up even once you have your vaccine, since the vaccine isn't 100%. So
Hmm. And the vaccine is not strong enough, and it's not a cure anyway. So don't think you're suddenly all immune to COVID. Just make sure that you're keeping yourself safe and away from that Delta variant, because that is one that's going to really mess you up.
yep.
So the next question we had was, how do you address COVID-19 myths and scares on social media? You can go first because I have a really good story for this.
Okay. So honestly, for all the myths and scares, I feel like people are just doing it to get in people's heads. And I don't really address it too much because people are going to believe everything they see on the internet. And it's kind of hard to steer them away from that. But I just try to debunk things whenever I can, or just try to encourage the truthful things on social media, just to like stare away from those myths and scares and stuff.
I agree. Um, so on social media, I've like seen a whole bunch of stories of like people saying the vaccine is having like microchips in there. So first off, the people that had to say that like type of myth actually like developed from like Republicans and people that haven't truly like looked into what the vaccine includes and things like that. And some people aren't actually doing their literal research. They're researching on the wrong side.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are out there saying that there's microchips in there, yeah, a magnet did not stick to my arm. And I just like, I just wanted to clarify that because no magnet is going to stick to my arm. That's not possible. And those videos are like people putting the magnets to their arm or doing stupid things, trying to say the vaccine is this and that. First off, do they even have the vaccine? Because 9 times out of 10, they probably don't. And if they do, what are they trying to deceive it for? If you got
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
And those that are trying to like, downgrade the vaccine, if you don't want to take it, that's up to you. But don't discourage other people from taking it because that's up to their will. And also, you don't want to look into those sweets and stuff that you get from the corner store or the grocery store, like those honey buns that sit there, 50 cents. Have you looked into the ingredients of those? Have you
Right.
considered looking at those ingredients?
Right.
Have you considered looking into the ingredients of what's in like,
Hot Cheetos, something Takis. Those.
yeah, those types of things? Like, that's even more deadly.
Mm-hmm.
So be concerned about what you're truly putting into your body, aside from the things that you don't actually have to put into your body yet, anyways.
Right.
So the
Very
next
good
question,
point.
yeah, very good. So the next question is, are people actually dying or getting tracked through a microchip in the vaccine? We've already addressed this. No. Even if people are getting tracked through a microchip, which I highly doubt it, if you have an iPhone or Android, the FBI is already probably tracking you.
Exactly. Right.
Your
You're
smart
already in
TV,
that.
yeah, like your smart TV, you know this stuff already. If you don't know this stuff, well, hello, it's true. And that's why Apple is like taking your location and stuff because it's like sending it to the government. They already know where you're at. They have your social security, your address, your name, your phone number, everything. You cannot hide.
Exactly. 1 minute you're searching, oh, 1 minute you're talking about something, next minute you go on Google and it's all over your feed. Like they know
Exactly.
everything about you.
Yeah. And I know I was talking about like some electronic. I kept talking about it or roller skating. And somehow my smart TV, like it kept showing me ads for that same thing, like over and over the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
It's just annoying and it's really weird.
It is.
I would not be worried about having a microchip in my arm because Apple already know where I'm at 24/7. I
Right.
don't know what they're gonna do with it though, but still.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. So another thing about the vaccine that a lot of people are like being so skeptical about it in the Black community is because in 1932, the Tuskegee Institute, they began a study to record the history of syphilis. And it was originally called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. And it involved 600 Black men, and 399 of those Black men were men that had syphilis. And the rest of those were 201 men who did not have syphilis. And the participants, they had informed consent, which was not collected. And the researchers told the men that they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anema infecti, and in exchange for taking part in the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. Which I understand where y'all are getting this like type of thing for the vaccine being like a trip or something, because they're offering state passes, free food. Some are even putting them in the lottery. I would love to, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's just that I guess this is how they want us to get back to normal more quicker. And you also have to consider COVID-19 actually lost a lot of money for the whole entire country. Not talking about the government because the government has bunches of money. Nobody cares about that. But, companies themselves, they've lost a lot of money and businesses have gone down, and the government has been sending out stimulus checks whenever they decide to get up and do so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's lost a lot of money and a lot of people have died. Even if the statistics aren't even real, still people are dying.
Yep.
So that's one thing. And I understand that the past can really impact the future.
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe that, that's totally fine because you have every right to do so. But if you're going to sit here and talk about microchips, that's something way more different than
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And I like how you said the past can definitely impact the future because it just shows how like mistreated African Americans, but people in this country in general were and still are today, which leads to like all this mess about people not wanting to take something, take a vaccine, or like not trusting the government because of the stuff they've done in the past.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay not to trust the government because, shoot, some of us don't even trust the government ourselves. But, you know, over time, you just have to think about it like it's just what it is at this point. And if you try to move somewhere else, it's probably not going to get any better unless you find somewhere else that's better. Let me know because I'm ready. But yeah, the last question that we had was how has COVID impacted the Black community? And we kind of already answered this. So do you have any comments for that?
I don't really have anything.
I don't really either. I just know that the Black community itself, like we've been scared to take the vaccine, and some of us sat back and waited for our peers to go take it.
Yeah.
And, now they're saying it's our time to go. So as we're ending off this episode, I want you all to know that we're thankful for y'all for tuning into this episode. And make sure to follow all of our socials, which will be linked in the description of this episode. And we also have linked a YouTube video that's talking about COVID-19 and the vaccine itself. So you guys are welcome to go check that out. It's by Jackson Health, I believe, a hospital in Florida. And that video is just talking about the vaccine and why we should take it as Black people, how it's important, and etc. If you're able to as well, spread the word about our GoFundMe, which is linked on our Linktree page. We appreciate all the support lately and hope all is well with everyone. But for now, bye.
Bye, y'all.